Howdy there, youngins. Silver Mongoose here, back again by mild interest for another episode of Gaming Favorites. I believe this is episode 14, and we have a returning guest to continue the conversation from last episode. Ryan ZeldaGameGod here.
Whoop whoop.
And before we start, I just have one very important question. Does you have a smoke?
Got gum.
I'm so glad you got that. I was like, oh man, it's going to sound really dumb if he doesn't get it.
Bro, dude, you know how familiar I am with Resident Evil 4? This ain't like Resident Evil 1, 2, and 3 and all that bull. I have played Resident Evil 4 about 1,000,000 times, and I've even played it probably more recently than any other Resident Evil game. So,
yeah,
I'm on it.
Well, that's good. So this episode, for those who didn't read the title and haven't picked it up yet, is going to be a continuation of our Resident Evil discussion. Last time we talked about, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 0, Code Veronica, Gaiden, and then the remakes of those respective titles. So I think so. Now we're on to 4 and continuing on. It sounds to me like 4 is probably one of your favorite games ever.
I guess
it sounds like you really love it anyway.
It would have to be, I suppose. I mean, it's funny. Like when you play a game too much, it almost becomes like whenever I play Resident Evil 4 now, I find myself getting to an area. I'm like, oh, it's this area. I'm just like, I've almost like played it to death. You know what I'm saying? But it is that's only just because it's such an awesome game.
Oh yeah, definitely. So I guess how we'd start is just how did you? I think you touched upon this really briefly in the last episode. I think you mentioned when you got Resident Evil 4, but why don't you refresh my memory and tell me?
Yeah, it's it's the first Resident Evil game I ever got, really. I mean, technically, the first I saw was Code Veronica, but Resident Evil 4 is really what got me into the series. I just got it for Christmas one year, and I was like, I don't know about that. I wasn't into like really violent video games, but it was good enough that it I just got over it.
Yeah, I think for me, I honestly, now that I think about it, I don't even know how I started playing the game or whose version I played, because it was one of those things where there was so much hype that I knew so many people playing it, and people who didn't own it were like passing it off to other people when they were done. They were like, you have to play this game.
Oh, wow.
I might have played like one of my brother's friends' copies first. But yeah, it was kind of a phenomenon. At least it felt that way anyways. Like I remember leading up to it, there was like tons of like coverage in Nintendo Power, because they were really hyping it up because they wanted to hype up the GameCube version. And they were talking about like, oh, like the enemies are so intelligent they can like raise a ladder if you knock it down, and then like climb up the ladder, and they have sort of they'll dodge out of the way if you shoot them.
Yeah, the AI was pretty good in the game.
Yeah, I remember that's what they were hyping up a lot. And I had like mild interest in it, I think, because Resident Evil wasn't a huge thing for me. I think before Resident Evil 4, the only one that I played was the first remake.
Mm-hmm.
So, hearing about more Resident Evil, I was like, yeah, well, sure. But I also hadn't, like, Leon didn't mean anything to me. Right, so Leon returning wasn't a big deal, so I didn't care about that. And yeah, it was like, well, in Resident Evil game, sure, I guess I'll play it. But then everyone was just talking about it all the time. It was one of those things where people went home and they played, and then they went back to school and they like compared notes. They're like, oh, did you get to this cutscene and how this happened? And
yeah,
I'm sure it won like tons of awards that year as well. And it was pretty highly regarded. I don't know how it's regarded, in retrospect, but I know at the time it was.
Yeah, I mean,
like a phenomenon.
It's kind of divisive because, like, it was kind of the beginning of the big split for like how Resident Evil would be handled from then on. Like, I've heard quotes like, "It was a game so good that it ruined its own franchise." But I mean, do you know the story behind like the
way.
development of like 4?
I don't know much. I mean, I know some rough details. I know that it was like many Resident Evil games had a long, long and tumultuous.
Well, it started. I hope I'm getting this right. I have some notes in front of me just to like keep this straight. But like, it started with it was directed by Hideki Kamiya, right? So it was going to be like a completely different game, but once like when they were actually underway developing it, Mikami thought it was not really heading the way he thought, so that version actually became Devil May Cry.
Yeah.
So I actually haven't really played a lot of Devil May Cry, but you can see like some of the roots in there. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I also haven't played Devil May Cry. I think I own the second one, but yeah, and then I think after the Devil May Cry split, then they tried this other version, which was more, I guess, in tune with classic Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
They had a bunch of development issues, and they scrapped that. And then for some reason, they decided to take this entirely different route and completely change the franchise. And frankly, I feel like it changed the gaming landscape. And maybe I'm, putting too much praise on it, but I feel as though it definitely popularized a few things. Like it kind of brought QuickTime events back into the fold. I mean, QuickTime events weren't new, but they weren't terribly popular. They weren't used a lot, and I feel like it definitely brought that into the fold. It definitely popularized like over-the-shoulder third-person cameras.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And yeah, like I feel like after Resident Evil 4, there were so many games that were like, well, we should include QuickTime events and over-the-shoulder third-person. Mm-hmm.
Dead Space was very heavily influenced by Resident Evil 4. I know that. That's definitely one of my favorite horror games as well.
Oh, I've played a really tiny amount of that, and I guess I didn't think about it. But yeah, now that I think about it, it does definitely have that same feel, and I guess clunky controls too, because Resident Evil 4 does have still like those tank controls, right?
Yeah, it's interesting. If you ever see like someone, there's like videos you can watch where people play with a fixed camera angle, and it's kind of amazing how when you see it from that fixed camera angle, how the movement is very similar to that of like tank controls in old Resident Evil games.
I mean, like they turn parts of the game into like basically screens like in the old games?
Yeah, they just basically move the camera from behind Leon to just like a fixed angle where you can kind of get like not really a bird's eye view, but similar to like a camera angle you'd get in like the old games, and you can see like pretty much the only difference in the movement is that well, you can aim like more precisely, obviously, but it's basically just that it's a little easier to turn while running. And other than that, like it's kind of interesting how similar the movement really is to the tank controls.
Yeah, but changing the camera makes it way easier.
Yeah, exactly. The camera's perspective makes all the difference.
Yeah, and I think also it's a fairly I don't want to say it's not like it's on rails, but like Resident Evil 4 always feels like you're kind of going in one direction in like a tiny gully, or occasionally you open up to like a city or something, but you always seem to be going pretty straight down a somewhat narrow area.
Yeah, it's very linear.
And I think that really helps with it too, because if it was all like wide areas, like it would be more difficult to really get used to those controls. But
yeah.
I didn't even think about it until I was done the game. I was like, wait a second, those were tank controls.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, Resident Evil 4's pacing is just like insanely good. Like you're constantly just doing like something new, like you're always on to like some new thing. It's pretty incredible how much they like just keep the pace up.
Yeah, it's very, very close to being too much. It's so close.
Very close.
Right on the edge.
But not too close.
In my opinion, definitely. Because there are a few parts in the game where I remember thinking, well, this has to be the end.
Mm-hmm.
And it most certainly wasn't. It was like, nope, now you're in an area where there's lava.
Yeah. Did you
like, oh,
did you
okay.
find like what was your like favorite and least favorite section of, like in terms of like village, castle, island? What would you say is like favorite and least favorite area?
Honestly, it's hard for me to remember. It's been a while since I played. I think it's been. I think I played the Wii version like when it came out, and that might have been the last time that I played it.
It's a great version.
It's been a number of years. Yeah. Surprisingly, yeah. I mean, now that we mentioned it, may as well touch upon it. But yeah, I think that version is great because there's not a lot of games that you can port to the Wii from other systems and just add those kinds of controls, because it does have a few motion controls, but mostly it's the aiming that works really well.
Yeah, it worked great for Residual 4 and Metroid Prime as well.
Mm-hmm. And I think that also plays into the tank controls, right? Like the tank, like I feel like aiming in third person wouldn't be as good if it wasn't if you didn't have the tank controls, because it kind of, Resident Evil 4 kind of has this pacing where, you know, you find some enemies and you have to be in a strategic position before you
exactly
encounter them, right? You can't just run into an area guns a-blazing. You have to go in there and you have to stop, right? And you have to take aim like a normal person would. You know, you're not Ramboing in there with like double Uzis and just running as you're gunning, right? They don't let you do that. So if you're being surrounded, you have to get out of there, and then you have to find a strategic position and then take aim. And I think that works really well. But if you try to take something like Modern Warfare and put that into the Wii and use motion controls and pointer controls, it doesn't really transfer as well. And I think did you get to use the nunchuck for the knife? Yeah,
you did. That was actually really nice, because not only could you use I think you just use the Wiimote for the knife. I don't know if you have to shake the nunchuck, but like what's nice about that is it would even auto aim. So like it was really nice for when you had to open up boxes and stuff, because you wouldn't have to like manually aim your knife. It just took forever. You just like swipe your Wiimote and he would automatically go for the box.
Oh yeah, I forgot about having to aim at all those boxes.
Yeah, and some have snakes in them.
It does take some time.
My friends make fun of me because like I was playing it recently and I was like, I know the game so like stupidly well. I was like, that's got a snake in it. And I shoot it with the gun because I knew I had the snake, and I just shoot the snake, and they'd be like, dude, you are such like a nerd for this game.
It's pretty great. I probably played it 3 or 4 times myself, which is a lot for me for a game that's long. But I think part of it is, like you said, it's the pacing, where you're when you're kind of tired of the village, then you're suddenly in caves, and then when you're kind of tired of the caves, then you're in the castle.
Yeah,
and it's not only that the area changes, but they introduce different mechanics and different enemies. Because I think you don't even see, is it Salazar, the little Napoleon guy?
Yeah, that's Salazar.
Yeah, I don't think you even encounter him until you get to the castle, right?
Yeah, he's the villain of the castle. In the village, you're up against Mendez, the big cheese.
So I feel like specifically the castle area and the village area, like those could have been 2 different games, and it could have been like Resident Evil 4 Part 1 and Part 2, and they still would have held up pretty well. Yeah,
probably. Well, you know what's like great about 4 that I think makes it so replayable most of all is just like from the beginning, like the intro is great because they don't even waste a second. Like you're in it the moment you start. That big village section where you have to just like fight a bunch of zombies, like talk about starting with a bang. I mean, it's so awesome.
Oh yeah, I agree, because there's a bit of a crawl, I think, at the beginning where Leon is like narrating a little bit. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to go save the prison stuff." Yeah,
there's a short cutscene at the beginning that you can skip, on a repeat playthrough, so that's nice, and because it's a pretty long cutscene, but it's a great cutscene. I watch it a lot just for fun. And then there's a short walk to the village. But I mean, you're at that big village fight within 5, not even 10 minutes. It's got to be like 5 minutes if you are on a repeat playthrough and you know what you're doing.
Yeah, and they could have handled that really differently. they could have had it like you slowly walk into the village. There's one person. You're like, whoa, what's going on? This is really weird. And then eventually more enemies show up. But no, they're like, here's a bunch of infected people trying to get you. And is there even a chainsaw guy in that first?
There is if you go for the shotgun. It's weird. It's like a context sensitive thing where if you go in the house with the shotgun in it, then the chainsaw guy will come after you. But if you don't go for the shotgun, he never comes after you. But it's just such a great, it's just such a great, like, because Resident Evil is always like slow, methodical, like build up the tension. And this game's just like, no, like we're going to illustrate this very clear. Like, you need to kill these guys. So it was really great. It's such a departure from what they were doing before. And I felt like it was a really elegant way of just like really showing what this game was going to be all about from the very beginning.
And then they punctuate that opening scene with a nice bit of humor.
Oh, yeah.
Where's everyone going? Bingo.
Yeah.
And then I think it zooms out and then shows you like the title, right?
Yeah, it does. Correctly? Yeah, it does.
And so it's kind of like, this is what it is. You're going to start off with a little bit of cheese, a little bit of mystery, chainsaw guys, infected people right off the bat, lots of fighting, and then ends with
a nice one-liner.
This is the kind of guy Leon is.
Yeah, like it's so the writing in this game, just like it never ceases to just make me so happy. Like, I could probably spend like an hour just talking about Leon's one-liners.
Yeah, the tone is another thing where it's almost too much, but it's not quite. Yeah. Like it's so everything is really well balanced. Like the pacing's really balanced. The tone is really balanced. I feel like the amount of items they give you is really well balanced. Like you never really feel like you're too stressed out, but if you really mess around, then you can certainly put yourself in a bad spot. But the dialogue is, here's what I think. I think what makes it work is that some of it is self-aware, but it's not like all fourth wall breaking. And also, Leon, I just think by himself is just a cool character.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like if he was also a cheesy person, then like I feel like he's playing to the world, you know, like to the world that he's in. Like the world is like, look, we're really cheesy and weird, and he's like, all right, I'm just gonna roll with this.
Yeah, he has this real like DGAF attitude towards the whole like scenario in pretty much everything he's in Resident Evil wise.
Yeah, it's and I think part of that is just because they wanted to make him cool, but another part of it is because like he's seen this stuff before, right?
Yeah,
he's just like, yeah, man, first day in the job, I was swarmed by zombies and had to fight my way out.
Yeah,
like dealing with these people is no big deal, really. And he's just like, what is? Like, I just feel like he just goes home. You know, he would just go home at night and just be like, what is with these people?
Exactly,
because they're so eccentric, like his villains, and also they're like Lord Sadler?
Yeah, Sadler's the main guy.
I find him to be pretty charming as well. Like he's charismatic.
Yeah, pretty much every character is great. Honestly, like I love Lewis, I love Ashley, all the villains. Mendez's personality he doesn't have much of one, but he's a pretty like intimidating, cool villain.
Mendez.
Yeah, the village main bad guy, the big cheese, big beard, Black Santa.
Right, the big tall guy in the trench coat.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
His boss fight is like pretty intense.
It is, certainly. But yeah, Sadler is like I think it all honestly comes down to the voice acting, where he's just always kind of like sounds soothing and purring, you know?
Yeah.
We're just like, yes, Leon.
Let us give you our power.
Yeah, he's got that great line at the end, or near the end, where, what is it? Where he's like, oh, you amuse me, Mr. Leon. You're, how does it go? Hold on. I'll remember this. It's been like 10 years, but, where he goes, the American prevailing is just a cliche out of your Hollywood movies. Yeah. And I'm just like, oh, he's chewing it up.
He loves being a villain so much.
Yeah, and which is great, because I feel like a lot of other Resident Evil enemies are like bad guys. They're not terribly interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Wesker is, I guess, the other main one who crosses a bunch of games, and he's pretty boring as a character. Like, he doesn't have much going for him.
Yeah, he's just your typical kind of like, just like, you know, campy story, sort of like flashy bad guy.
Yeah, they're like, look, he's got a deep voice, he's got slick back hair, and he's got sunglasses. He's clearly the big bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so having Sadler is great. Salazar is just humorous and confusing.
Yeah.
And Leon knows it, but he never like really outright, I guess he doesn't like really outright attack him. Like, he always just plays off. He's like, well, if you're going to say something dumb, I'm going to hit you back.
Yeah, he always throws a line back. My favorite line Leon has in the game, I think, it's hard to pick a favorite, but if I had to pick a favorite, my favorite part is like when you first get to the island, I believe, he just breaks down. He's like, Sadler, why don't you just give up and let Ashley go home?
He just says it so exasperated.
Yeah, it's just like, dude, really? Like, another area? Like, that's probably what you're feeling like as well by the time you're just like, really? Like, another area? This is insane. Like, this just keeps going.
Mm-hmm. I think, back to that, like, the rhythm and pacing. Like, there's definitely also that in the gameplay, right? Where you kind of run into an area, kill a bunch of guys, and it does feel kind of repetitive, where if you're playing it strategically, you're kind of doing the same thing, where if there's a large group, you throw a grenade.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a couple people, you know, you shoot them in the knees and then you go kick them in the face, or you stab them with your knife. So you're doing that for a large portion of the game.
Yeah, what's the strategy? Really... it's like, blow up their shields, shoot them in the legs, suplex, and cut them to death.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about suplexing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and roundhouse kick.
Yeah. But it does it because it's so fun. And I think that's a big part of Resident Evil 4, is that it's so fun. The gameplay is fun. Whereas a lot of other... If you think back to Resident Evil 1, like, it's a great game. It's very enjoyable to play. I would not call it fun in any way. In my opinion, you know? It's
stressful.
It's stressful and it's enjoyable.
Well, 4 has its moments.
But I wouldn't call it fun.
4 has its stressful moments. Like, oh, dude, the blind slasher guys, the big Wolverine claw guys, like, those things are intense. And the first one that you find in that cage, like, that fight still makes me cry sometimes. It's just, like, ridiculous.
I do remember there's a portion where there's 2 of them, right?
There is. That part is... That scares me.
Yeah, that part was definitely tough. There's definitely a few tough parts. I feel like Krauser killed me a lot as well.
Yeah, Krauser. Well, Krauser's probably one of the hardest fights in the game.
Yeah, I remember him killing me quite a bit. I feel like I don't know if you fight him more than once, but I do remember he was okay, and then he grows like this shield arm, and
there's like a lead up to his like there's a section with Krauser, and then you do his boss fight. Yeah, do you know his weakness?
I mean, not offhand, no.
It's if you knife him, the knife is his weakness, which is cool because he uses a knife too. Yeah, like it's insane. Like he really takes that knife hard, and it makes it really fun. Well, that's the kind of the thing about part 3 on the island is it's such a higher concentration of boss fights, so it really feels like a finale type area.
Mm-hmm.
They close it out with a bang.
Yeah, I agree. I do feel like the final boss against, I think Sadler is the final boss. Mm-hmm. I feel like that battle was a little...
Yeah.
It was a little anticlimactic.
Some of the bosses are kind of...
I was okay with that, because I was kind of expecting him to just, have a dozen forms, and he just keeps getting bigger and bigger. But I think he only has a couple. And it's like,
he only has
okay.
one. He hasn't changed form at all.
No, he just has his weird
head
it's just
thing. A big spider guy.
Yeah. And you're kind of in a small area. It's not like a crazy set piece or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of okay with that, because I feel as though he's like that. I feel like it suits his personality
Mm-hmm.
as a villain. Like he's not necessarily the kind of guy. He's not like a Wesker character who enjoys going around breaking necks. You know, he's there to kind of pull the strings and enjoy being in power. So him not being this gigantic, 10-foot tall monster is I think it's suiting for his character.
Yeah, well, it's kind of funny. The bigger bosses get in Resident Evil, kind of like the easier they become. Like Salazar's boss fight, like I don't know if you remember what it looks like, but it's insane. Like he grows like this big like tentacle head and these two big tentacle arms, and he's like this giant monster thing. It's like the easiest fight in the game.
I kind of remember. Yeah, it's given me like Flowey vibes.
Yeah, it's like he's got like a flower head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of remember that now.
I'll pull up a picture for you.
I suppose also suits his character being like a tiny man and having issues with being tiny. He's like, I want to be the biggest, baddest villain.
Yeah, like the flower thing opens up. It's like this big skull head with this giant eye, and he's like this big, like gory sort of like.
Yeah.
But he's so easy.
It's a very easy fight because he's got these gigantic glowy.
Yeah, and then you just got like Krauser, who's just a dude. I mean, he's mutated, but he's just a dude, and he's so hard.
Yeah, he is because he's so fast, and he has a shield and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and I feel like
even Mendez.
I don't know if he has a Mendez. Yeah,
he's pretty tough. Like he's not super hard, but he's definitely more threatening than Salazar, and he's also just a dude.
Yeah, I feel like he was threatening because you're inside a small area.
Yeah,
right?
you're really small area. He's just like this he moves really slow, which is like very unsettling. And then the second part of the fight, like he loses his legs and starts like hopping around on his like monkey bar things, and he gets like a lot faster.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's just like really, it's a really oddly paced fight and just like very strangely intense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And speaking of characters, we didn't even mention our salesman.
Oh yeah, the merchant is so, like, I mean,
the merchant. Yeah,
everyone loves the merchant. Come on, like I haven't met one person who doesn't like the merchant.
And I think that he's also he fits in really well as I guess like a microcosm of the game itself, because he's like this weird kind of dark, grimy character, has a bit of camp to him. But also, he's just not explained, right? Like, they didn't try...
He's not explained, and he's not even referenced.
No one else mentions
like,
it. No one's
like,
like,
just like, whatever.
Yeah, Leon doesn't tell anybody. The enemies aren't like, that... I feel like if it was another game, they would have been like, oh, that one guy who got away from... Used to be like a disciple... Or that's not the right word. Disciple?
A disciple?
Disciple, that's the word. He's a disciple of Lord Sadler, and then he got away, and he's trying to help, and but he's just this weird guy who potentially has some sort of infection because his skin is all different. I feel, but he's just there. He just likes stuff, just likes shiny things.
Yeah,
he's never explained.
Yeah,
he's never referenced by anybody.
It's really
else.
Cool. I love that.
And that's fine, because I feel like it definitely suits the game. It suits the game pretty well.
Yeah, and it's got a really good economy to it.
Yeah, no, I definitely
because
agree.
You can't buy bullets, and so like you can. Let me see if I can. It's like so you can sell bullets, and you can turn bullets into money, and you can buy health, but the only way to get bullets is to basically just do combat smart. So the game's got like a really great economy system going for it.
It is very well balanced. I think the only thing you really get from him that's like super valuable is like upgrades, right?
Yeah, pretty much upgrades for a case and your guns and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think, do you have to do those with him? Like, can you upgrade your weapons outside of seeing him, or do you have to do it with him?
Nope. So, okay. Let me ask you, are you a Broken Butterfly man or a Killer 7 man?
I think I'm a Broken Butterfly man.
That's a smart choice. I am too. What about handgun? Are you part of the Red Nine clan?
What's the other one?
There's a few. There's like the Blacktail, which is that one you get for shooting the medallions, I believe. I just sell it. Screw that weapon. There's like your original handgun, and then there's like the I think there might be a fourth one. I don't know. I like the Red Nine.
I don't actually remember the pistol I used. There's one that shoots multiple bullets, right? Like it's like a quick shot one.
Oh man, why am I blanking on what the Matilda? I think.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I played the game so many times that I feel like the pistols always switched, but I always definitely took the Broken Butterfly, which I feel like is like a large like Magnum, right?
Yeah, I mean you can get one for free, and it upgrades to a higher firepower than the Killer 7, even though it starts with a lower one. So it's definitely the gentleman's choice. A man of culture.
That's yes, of which I clearly am.
Yeah. I'm in like Resident Evil groups on Facebook, and then people are always arguing over like people would always mock people who like the Red 9 was their favorite handgun and stuff, and I'm just like, whatever. It's just because we're smarter.
I mean, it's all fun.
Yeah, it was always just like fun arguments, basically.
Yeah, all the weapons are quite enjoyable.
Yeah, I like to switch it up.
I mean, it was a bit of a pain when you picked up like a rocket launcher because you're like, oh, and I have to make all this space to fit inside.
Yeah, you can cheese some areas of the game too, like that double blind slasher room. You can just shoot one rocket launcher bullet, and if you aim it right, you can kill both of them in one shot.
I don't think I've ever done that. I don't think I've done the throw flashbangs and run away and that sort of thing. But the management was also a lot of fun. I never really felt like I had to leave too many items behind. Occasionally I would like throw away some grenades or whatever, but I was never really having to leave behind anything too important.
Yeah, it doesn't usually happen.
Yeah, and it's surprisingly fun to like manage your briefcase. So I guess we've kind of talked about this game the entire time, assuming everyone listening to this has a perfect memory of what this game is like, or has even played it. But yeah, I guess the briefcase system is different than in previous games, because in previous games you just had like 6 to 8 slots usually of this is many items you can hold. But then in this game you're actually managing a briefcase, and it's kind of like a puzzle where okay, so a grenade takes up 2 spaces. Bullets take up 2 spaces. A pistol takes up 6, but it's shaped differently than another pistol, which might be 6 but longer, like that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of like rotating pieces and trying to fit it all in your briefcase. And it was surprisingly enjoyable to do. Whereas in the original Resident Evil games, I was always mad about only having so many slots.
Yeah, it's just like
I felt
a
like I
different
didn't
type
have
of
much
thing.
control over it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it suits the fast-paced pacing of 4 a lot better to just have more of a loose sort of inventory system where like there is some management involved. You do kind of have to be a little smart about what you pick up, but I mean, you're only really having inventory problems if you're like so good at the game that you're packing all this ammo and stuff. I feel like really it's just a limit to how many guns you can carry. More than anything. Largely
it is.
Yeah.
Which does force you to make a few decisions, like, am I going to be a Broken Butterfly man or a Red 7 man? You can't. You could maybe carry them both.
Yeah, but I don't even remember. I think they might be the same size, but they're not very big.
Yeah. No, so you could do it if you wanted to, I suppose. And when I think of the management system, I can like hear the sound effects of picking stuff up and rotating it and putting it back down.
That is funny. They are echoing in my head right now.
I feel like this game and the previous Resident Evil games that we talked about all have really good sound design. Like they know when to have silence and when to have very specific and unique sounding sound effects, I find.
Yeah.
And maybe
it is pretty good.
Maybe it's just because we both love the game and we've played it multiple times, but a lot of the sound effects, like I'm imagining, like, okay, so like whenever you shoot a crow or something, it has a very specific sound.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you're picking up money, it's got that like nice little it's like a little purse of money jingling kind of sound.
Yeah.
Everything kind of has like really specific. I mean, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just I really like it. I don't really know anything about sound design, but I feel like Resident Evil games usually have very good sound effects and sound design.
Yeah, I mean they're definitely pretty good, and there's some like really cool enemy sounds. Like the regenerators have a really nice, creepy sort of like forewarning sort of a sound to them, like that like scary breathing thing they do. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, those are the guys where you have to like use a heat sensor to shoot them, right?
Yeah, I mean you can just go like crazy on them, and if you do enough damage, they will eventually die. But the best way is to shoot the parasites in their bodies. Right.
Yeah, I do remember them having some sort of breathing, and also those I don't know what you called them, but those big guys with swords on their arms, basically. They basically have like Wolverine claws.
Oh, the blind slashers.
Yeah, I feel like you can hear them before you see them as well.
Yeah, they have some interesting. They definitely have like a standout like voice that like kind of noise that they yell when they're running at you. That oh my, that scares the hell out of me. God, they're so fast. Like
yeah. Compared to the other enemies, which aren't necessarily that fast. Man, yeah. So you're bringing back all these memories. Now I'm remembering like fighting all the different types of enemies and how they were different and the different strategies. Like the coolest thing that you can do in this game, I think, one of the coolest, other than suplexing people, is if someone like throws like an axe at you or something and you can shoot it out of the air.
Yeah.
Like, before it gets to you.
That's dope.
Like, that just feels so satisfying. Yeah, it feels so great to do that.
Yeah, they try so hard to make Leon like as cool as possible. Like you can do so many cool things with him.
Yeah.
Did you ever get like the special costumes like where Ashley can get like a suit of armor?
Yeah, and then like whenever she walks, her like mask is open, and as soon as she stands still, it closes. Oh, I'm imagining that.
Well, if you aim at her, like it's actually funny. Like her thing is like her helmet's open, and then if you aim at her, like she just like looks away and closes it real quick. But she's completely invincible. Yeah. Like you can, she's impervious to grenade blasts, any gunshot, and if enemies try to pick her up and take her away, she's so heavy that they just like fall. So
I completely forgot.
Yeah,
about
it's completely OP. But that's like it's like a hidden. It's like an unlockable. So it's kind of like the infinite guns and stuff. It's just something that like you do like a victory lap with that kind of stuff through the game.
Right. Yeah, I do remember that now. And I remember in I think it was the Wii version, which is probably from the other versions as well, because the Wii version has, I think, all the PS2 content.
Yeah, because the PS2 had some content that the GameCube didn't have. Although I think the GameCube version is technically, I heard that it was harder than the PS2 version. There's like a weird thing with the difficulty with Resident Evil. It's I don't know if to talk about it, but I hear the GameCube version's the hardest version.
Oh, yeah, I'm not too sure about that. I do remember it when we were talking about it at school. There was one girl who was very like staunch into PlayStation, and she was always trying to like talk me up about how the PlayStation 2 version was superior. She's like, you can't even run in the GameCube version. I'm like, what?
What?
What are you talking
about? She needs to check her facts.
But the PS2 version does have the Ada side story.
That's true.
And I feel like it had more costumes, and I think that the one that is in the Wii version is Leon has like a gangster outfit.
Yeah, that's the one with Ashley having the knight costume. It's Ashley with the knight and Leon with his like Italian gangster. And if you use the Chicago typewriter, and you reload, because it doesn't need to reload because it's infinite gun, he does these cool like animations where he like throws his hat in the air and stuff like that. And it's like this really dramatic pose.
Yeah, it suits him pretty well, especially on your like second playthrough. You're like, yeah, this is easy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like people always like talk about not always, but I've heard people talk about like it makes the game too easy. I'm like, it's a victory lap. Like you go through the game with god powers so that you can just stomp everything, and like it's just fun.
Yeah, if it's too easy, just don't use it. Stop being a baby.
Yeah, get the infinite rocket launcher too. Blow everything up.
Oh, I never got that. That was just way too easy.
Well, it takes
the Chicago typewriter is fun to use.
Well, the thing about getting the Chicago typewriter or the infinite launcher is it almost takes like a whole playthrough's worth of money just to save up for it. So you kind of have to.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, you have to beat the whole game again just to even buy it.
Yeah, or at least know that that's what you're going for from the beginning, and then be really cheap with all of your other. Spend a lot of time searching for every gem and selling them, selling extra bullets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it
could probably be done, but you do have to know definitely ahead of time.
Yeah,
because otherwise you're just going to be spending all your money to upgrade your current guns.
And that was another fun thing, was finding all the treasures.
Yeah,
and like certain treasures would be more valuable if you combine them with like their correct gems and whatnot.
Yeah, I do remember there was like a jar or something that you could put gems into, and
there were several things.
You find some gems, and you're like, do these gems go in something? Do I sell the gems individually? Do I hold on to them and wait until I potentially find this jar? And there's definitely some things where you find like a jar and then you put 2 out of 3 gems in it, and then it's like 4 hours later in the game and you're like, okay, clearly I'm not finding the other gem. I missed the blue gem.
Yeah,
damn it.
Some of them are pretty well hidden. Yeah,
they're like in tiny little they're like hanging from trees in random spaces, or and like there's that one spot right at the beginning of the game where I think there's something hanging above a well.
Yeah,
and you have to close the well before you shoot it down, because if you don't, it just falls down the well and you never get the item.
And you do get the item, but it becomes dirty and you get like a tenth of the price or something like that. And what's funny about that is, like, you have to shoot this board to close the well, but if you go up and press A, thinking that you're going to collect the treasure, but you didn't actually shoot the treasure down, he doesn't collect the treasure. He just opens the well back up, and then you can't close it again. I've done that a few times. So you're just
that's a bit cruel.
Yeah, and it's like right at the start of the game too. It's like, geez.
You did mention earlier that you like all the characters, including Ashley, which was interesting because I feel like it's a pretty common complaint that a lot of people don't like her.
Oh, Ashley's awesome. She's funny. She really juxtaposes Leon in a great way. Like, I love when Leon makes fun of her. And she's honestly, dude, like, as far as escort characters go, she's superb. Because here's one thing she does that, like, I can't stand with other, like, AI controlled, like, partners. Even people who like aren't escorting, like Sheva and 5. Like, when you're aiming, she gets behind you like a smart person.
Yeah.
And like,
and she'll duck out of the way.
Yeah, she'll duck. Like, her AI is really great. Like, I love that she ducks when you're aiming, and like her like the follow me, wait commands. Like, it's just the simplest thing. Just like, stay here or follow me, but completely, it's like the most useful thing ever. And she can hide in dumpsters and stuff. She's awesome.
Am I misremembering, or if you leave her behind and go too far away for too long, she just gets captured?
No, well, if there's enemies, she can, but it won't let you go to like a whole new area unless she's next to you.
Oh, okay. I thought I remembered that they would like basically just take her through a portal or something if you left her behind.
No, yeah, if they capture her and they like pick her up, then yeah, they'll take her like through a doorway, and it plays this cutscene of like her being dragged through a doorway. So you can't let the enemies take her away, but it won't do anything.
I do like that they're trying to capture her and not just kill her, because if they're trying to kill her, it would be less satisfying. But there is, a lot of moments where you're off fighting, 2 Wolverine guys, and you ask her to stay, and then someone just picks her up and starts carrying her away.
That's their plan.
She's like, Leon!
Like, their plan is to infect her and then send her back to the president and spread the virus. So I like that. That makes sense.
But it's fun to like have an escort mission where you're not just trying to protect somebody's life, you're trying to protect her from being kidnapped. So like when they're carrying her away, you have to, they're near a doorway and you're like, okay, do I risk shooting at him and I might hit Ashley, or do I try to run up? Do I have enough time to run up to them and get better aim?
Yeah.
So there's a bit of strategy in there, and I do agree that she's a good juxtaposition to Leon. I think largely because of her age. where she's a lot younger, and she's like, I remember the one part where Leon is like, "Oh, we have to jump down here," and she's like, "No way," and he's like, "Way," and just like pushes her down. I think.
Yeah. Well, no, my favorite thing is the way he says he's like, "Way," like he says it like he's a teen, and then he grabs her and then just runs off and jumps like and pulls her along with him. It was awesome. And then they land, and she's like all mad at him. And he's like, "I knew you'd be fine if you landed on your butt."
Yeah. Yeah, so they have like this kind of like an older brother or younger sister relationship, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
Until the last scene where she creepily hits on him.
Yeah, but
what does she say? She says something like, "Oh, maybe we could do some more overtime."
Yeah,
and
maybe we can do some overtime. Yeah, then he goes after Hunnigan. He hits on Hunnigan at the end of the game. I think post credits or something. He's like, "You're kind of cute without those glasses."
Yeah, he hits on everybody the whole time.
Exactly.
Which is, I don't know. It's kind of funny because it seems like he's not really trying. He's just like, this is just my personality. I just flirt with everybody.
Yeah, exactly. He just wants desperately to not have a crush on Ada anymore.
Did he? Yeah. Did he actually have a crush on her in Resident Evil 2?
They're vague about it. Like it's kind of like just the way he says it at the end of the game. It's just like, she's just a part of me I can't let go. Like I feel like it's just like they have this vague sort of connection to each other. That's like could be interpreted as romantic, but it's just kind of up in the air.
Yeah, and they sort of, I think, imply that a lot of stuff happened between everybody between Resident Evil 2 and 4. You know, they don't explicitly state a lot of things, but they do certainly hint at stuff happening, which is was fine for me because, like I said, when I played it, I hadn't previously played the other game. So, like, Ada, I was like, okay, there's this Ada person. Apparently, they have a history, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't feel left out because they were so vague about it.
Yeah, they don't really go too deep into it. Because I was the same way. Like, I didn't know about like Leon and Ada when I played 4 as my first one. So.
Yeah, or Krauser. I don't know if Krauser's in a previous game, but they definitely like they say that he has a history with Leon, and their relationship is great too. I remember. I think that the QuickTime events outside of cutscenes some of them are pretty silly, but I do like the ones within the cutscenes. There's like the one where you're talking with Krauser.
Yeah,
you're both kind of circling each other.
Well, yeah, that cutscene is awesome.
Holding knives. Yeah, and the first time I watched it, I just thought it was a cutscene, so I like had my controller at the end of my bed and I just like laid down. And then there's I see him like drop the knife and like go to grab it and stab, and I had like leaped across the bed to like hit it. I was like, oh my god, this game, it's not letting me rest for a second. Yeah. It was that whole cutscene is really great. And I think the QTEs like work really well with it. Like, it makes that entire conversation seem very tense and meaningful. Whereas if it was just two people talking, I'd be like, yeah, I guess this is okay. I don't know who they are. Or whatever,
it's just like a small way of kind of involving you. Yeah, and then after that's when you fight It. You remember It?
Yes.
It. I think that actually might be like that's one of the toughest fights.
Yeah. I'm gonna send It after you. Then Leon's like, what'd you forget what it's called? A senior moment, perhaps?
Can't remember the name. A senior moment, perhaps. I think that might be the line where Sadler has this like really like funny sort of like overreaction laugh. He's like, no. It's like, what are you laughing? Like Sadler and Leon play off each other so well.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know what else I have to say about this game. Other than I think we touched upon most of it. But I know you might have notes.
I didn't take notes. I don't prepare, but I mean, overall, it's just an awesome game. I could talk about it for as long as anybody was willing to talk about it with me, but I mean, they just nailed it. So they nailed it so well. They decided to stick with it going into 5. What'd you think of 5? Yes.
So 5, I played with a friend because I didn't have a 360, and they had 5, and they were like, "Hey, you liked Resident Evil 4. Did you want to play the new Resident Evil with me?" And I was like, "Sure." So I would walk over to his house, and a couple times a week or something, and go through the game together. And I guess like gameplay wise, I thought it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun game.
Yeah.
Story wise, I honestly don't even really remember. I don't really care.
Yeah, same.
I did think being in a completely new environment was really interesting. Like going from all these areas where, like even in Resident Evil 4, like a lot of it takes place like at night, or it's dark, or it's indoors, or you're in castles, so it sticks with that like Victorian era, like gothic theme, where there's candelabras and stuff everywhere.
Yeah,
and torches and lots of nice rugs and stonework. And then 5 is like, nope, you're in Africa in the daytime, and it's like there's like this harsh, like bright light in a lot of areas.
Yeah, that's true.
So I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, and I thought the gameplay was a lot of fun. I think I played a little bit of it single player just to see like what the AI was like with Sheva.
Oh,
but
so bad.
I think the passing of items was really annoying. Where you're just like, can you please give me that grenade that you're holding or something? So I feel like it was definitely a better multiplayer experience.
Yeah, the inventory management was definitely really clunky. Sheva was just such an annoying character because you couldn't shoot her and kill her on accident, which was nice, but she just kept getting in your way. Like they didn't program her any going after 4. It was really hard because she was just so annoying. Like she kept getting in your way. She'd waste all your bullets if you gave her any. She was pretty good about healing you, but other than that, it's just not great.
Yeah, so I think that it's a good game in the sense that it's like good combat wise. It's just plain fun to play.
Yeah.
But as far as like a Resident Evil game goes, I mean, it doesn't really carry anything over. I mean, you have Chris, but Chris doesn't really feel like the old Chris.
Dude, he's so jacked. Like it blows my mind. His arms. There's one point where he's like looking at, he has this little phone or something, and he's like looking down at this phone. He can barely even move his neck down because like there's just so much muscles in his upper like chest and upper arms. Like he's just so buff. It was insane. Oh my god! Like that's my dream bod.
It's too buff for me.
Yeah, and I mean we don't even have to like. Just the boulder scene alone, dude. Like you remember that, right? Where he punches the boulder.
Yeah, I have a note here that says the game took itself very seriously until the end. Spoiler alerts. Where because we need to talk about the ending. It's like because the whole game is like very serious. You're in, you're being attacked by infected people, and they're taking. It's like bioterrorism, and we have to save the world, and all this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Well, the bad guy was kind of cheesy. Like,
I don't even.
I'm a businessman with standards or whatever. Like, I don't even remember if he
my god!
I don't remember how long you persisted because eventually you do fight Wesker, but I remember that dude was like, that was like, that's Resident Evil. Like that felt good.
He's very weaselly.
Yeah,
I totally forgot about him. He's very forgettable.
Yeah,
but then, at the end, then Wesker comes back, and then you end up fighting him in a volcano. So there's like in the whole battle, I think there's like a volcano, a rocket launcher, a helicopter, and then there's a scene with a giant boulder where you have to basically just punch it until I don't even remember what the goal was, but you wanted to punch it to get it out of the way.
Yeah,
and I was just like, what is even happening? Like,
like
he's not pushing it.
Yeah,
he's punching it.
They needed more of that in the game. That was definitely some classic Resident Evil right there. But honestly, I found the game to be just largely forgettable. I played it a few years ago with my friend, and I don't really remember like much of any of it. Like it's a solid okay. Like we had fun, but I didn't have Resident Evil fun.
It's well constructed.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't really have any heart.
That's true.
I think that's what it comes down to.
I agree.
Technically, it's fine. You know, it looks fine, it plays fine, and it is fun. But it's definitely a different experience. And I think it was just growing pains. So they're like, well, how do we follow up Resident Evil 4? Like, do we stick with the same amount of camp? Because I feel like if they did that, maybe people wouldn't have been for it. But they want it to be a bit more serious, and I don't know.
Yeah,
I think that no matter what they did, going after 4 would have been really tough to pull something off.
Yeah, it just feels like they put 4 into like a scientific make another one of these machine and just like it spat out. Who was the direct? Yeah, I mean, I don't even know who these directors are, but
yeah,
not Shinji Mikami.
Did you play the? No, excuse me. Did you play the? There was a DLC. Did you play the DLC for it?
Probably. Oh wait, that's where kind of like it's like. Was it in the mansion? It was kind of like they tried to do like a classic sort of evoking thing, right?
Yeah, there was one piece of DLC called, I think it was called Lost in Nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
And it was essentially like an hour playing inside the first game.
No, I was interested in that, yeah.
I think you're playing Jill and maybe Chris. You're Jill and somebody else. And I think it's very close to the Spencer Mansion from the first game. And it was a lot of fun. It was definitely classic. More classic style, you had little puzzles and that kind of thing. It is very short. It's only between I'd say 45 minutes to an hour.
Right.
But it was fun, and I might be misremembering, but I feel like they added the door transitions, as a callback.
I don't remember,
but I might be misremembering that.
No, we tried to play that, but me and my friend were playing online, and I don't think it natively supports online. We had to kind of jank it up a little bit to get it to work, and when we tried to do the DLC, it wouldn't work, so we didn't get to play it. But it did look interesting. I was kind of disappointed that we didn't get to try it.
Yeah, I think there was some other DLC too. There was multiplayer DLC and stuff, and multiplayer in Resident Evil never interested me at all. It's just
that's why we skipped over Outbreak.
Right, the one that I don't even remember anything about. I honestly don't have much to say about 5, but I agree that it felt constructed. And it's largely forgettable, but I definitely enjoyed the time I had with it. I have no desire to go back and play through it again.
I would play it again, but I definitely don't hold it in nearly as high regards as really any of the previous games that came before it. But anyway, the next that kind of leads us in to the next game on our list, everyone's favorite, Resident Evil: The Mercenaries 3D on the 3DS.
Oh yeah, I was so confused when they made this game. What are you doing?
I didn't know about it till years later. Me and my friend is a huge fan of the DS, and he's like, "Dude, you gotta download Resident Evil Mercenaries on the 3DS." And I'm like, "That's a thing?" And I just download. I was at the office at my job, and it was late at night, and I was like, "Yeah, screw it, I'll download it." So and we just beat it in a night. It was fun.
Yeah, I feel like. The Mercenaries was from which game, though? Was it from 5 or 4?
Well, it was in 4. It was an unlockable. I think it was one of the few things that you could unlock in the GameCube version.
Right.
But the DS game...
It never really interested me.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fun little minigame. The DS one is based off of 5. It uses, levels and characters from 5. Yeah, it's amusing, is how I would describe it.
It was in that weird early period, I think, of 3DS where people were just like, what can we throw on here?
Well, it came out in 2011.
Oh, did it?
When did the 3DS come out?
Man. It might have been 2000. I actually don't know.
I think I was a sophomore.
I think it was 2011. I think it was 2011.
2010 or 2011. Well. Probably 2011. Yeah.
If it was 2010, it was probably late 2010. But yeah, so it was still in that early period where, they're like, what do we put on here? It's the next Nintendo handheld. We need money.
Yeah.
We don't want to put too much work into it, so they're like, we'll make Street Fighter 4 3D and add like a couple little features, and we'll add this, and just like ported a bunch of random stuff and like mini games, or I mean, something like Resident Evil 3D Mercenaries did not feel like it was a full title,
Yeah, I think it was like a half price sort of. Yeah, just a fun thing.
Well, a lot of those half price stuff in Canada don't end up being half price.
Oh,
so
well,
there's surprisingly a big discrepancy between a lot of like Canadian and United States games price wise, like especially with deals. And like I remember when Monster Hunter Tri came out on the Wii, like in the States it was like if you pre-order it, you get like 1,000 Wii points. You get like $10 off the controller that comes with it, and you get something else, I think. And then in Canada, it was like you pre-order it, and you get $5 off. And you're just like, wow, thanks. But the game was already more expensive here because it was, it was like $10 or $15 more. So it's like, well, thanks. That's great.
Got 'em.
I really appreciate that $5 off.
Yeah, I've heard Canadian prices are a hard oof.
Yeah, they definitely are. And the sales just don't really happen. In the States, I feel like there's a lot of times where, especially a couple of generations ago, where people are like, yeah, just wait 2 weeks and the price will drop by half. And I'm like, what magical world do you live in? Here games just stay the same price forever. Stuff doesn't like just drop at half price in like a couple months like they did like on the 360 all the time. But,
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, we kind of skated right past the Chronicles games. Do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, no, definitely. I do have a few things to say about the Chronicles games.
Okay, dish.
There was there was 2 Wii games. Yeah, I actually don't know the chronology in terms of when these things are released. So,
2007.
You said you started by them
for I got the release list in front of me. Umbrella Chronicles came out 2007. Darkseid Chronicles came out 2009. Right after 5.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess that kind of segues in with people just throwing stuff on systems to make money. Because the first one, Umbrella Chronicles, which I think covers 0, 1, and 3. So for those that don't know, because it's a Wii game, so people might not know, it's a light gun game, essentially. So it's on rails, and think of like House of the Dead or something, but it covers aspects of Resident Evil 0, 1, and 3.
Mm-hmm.
So it takes those games and basically puts them in first-person 3D, which is interesting. But I felt as though definitely the first one, Umbrella Chronicles, was pretty... It felt like they just wanted to put something out in the system,
Really? You didn't like it?
Like, well, I liked it, but it definitely didn't feel like polished. It felt kind of like an afterthought where they're like, yeah, let's just put a thing on the system and make some money. And it was really neat to see the past environments in 3D. Like, that was really cool. I really liked that, and I liked there was a couple little moments with, I think you got to unlock, you get to play as Wesker sort of thing for like a little bit. And that was neat because it added a little bit of backstory as to like, well, where was he in the mansion when the main characters were off doing other things? But to me, it didn't like blow my mind. It didn't rock my world. I don't know if you felt differently about it.
I remember thinking it was pretty cool. The Wii is so good at light gun games. Like, if you like light gun games, pick up a Wii because there's a good amount to choose from. But like, I kind of just liked how the environments were. There's like tons of stuff to shoot, and you could find all sorts of little hidden items in them. And I really liked how they expanded on like the story and stuff, like you said. And I don't know, I didn't like love it to death, but as far as light gun games go, I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, it was. I mean,
I don't think I beat it though.
It's not a game. Yeah, it's not a game. This shows how much you liked it.
Yeah. Well, it got hard. I remember getting stuck. I haven't played it since it came out really that much.
Yeah, it did get tough. after a while for sure. But I think that Darkseid Chronicles, which is the sequel, that I think covers Resident Evil 2 and Veronica?
I believe so, yeah, because it had, I know it had Claire in it. Because there's a...
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt like that one was definitely felt like more of an effort put into it. Like they really like sat down and went, okay, well, so Relic Chronicles did well. You know, we made our money back on that. Let's sit down and like really make a good game, because I felt like they added a lot of story between like Leon and Krauser, and I think they brought you in largely new environments, and really helped kind of piece together the games. Like I feel like Umbrella Chronicles was largely look at these games in a different way, whereas Darkseid Chronicles was let's fill in a lot of the gaps, and you can definitely cover some of the stuff in the games, but let's work on the in between stuff. And they had a lot of like good cutscenes, from what I remember. So it definitely felt more polished, and they put more effort into it. Like I would say Darkseid Chronicles is straight up a good game, even if you if you handed it to somebody who had not played Resident Evil before and were just wanting like a good light gun game. I think Darkseid Chronicles is something I could easily recommend.
That's interesting. I didn't get Darkseid Chronicles till way later, like maybe a few years ago, and I haven't played as much of it as I have Umbrella Chronicles. I remember it being pretty hard. Like, I don't know if I got very far, because, like, I kept dying. But I might have picked hard mode or something.
You did say you like playing hard.
Knowing me, I probably did. But, you know, I kind of want... Yeah. I prefer to play those games with friends, so I try to get friends together to play with them, and, I mean, sometimes it's just tough coordinating schedules.
Yeah, no, I get that. But I think that the Wii games are worth checking out.
For sure.
So don't be discouraged if you're not a fan of the Wii. They're decently made. Darkseid Chronicles is definitely a better game in my opinion. I mean, if you don't like light gun games, then well, you're not going to like them.
But you never know. It might just warm you up to them.
It could be, yeah. Like I liked the Dead Space one.
Oh yeah, I kind of wanted to bring that up, but I didn't know if we wanted to drift. But yeah, Dead Space one, Extraction, that was good. That was a good light gun game.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And again, I feel like that one was pretty well constructed, and they actually put effort into it.
Yeah,
it's always kind of a crapshoot on the Wii with titles like that, because you don't know if people are like, well, let's just cash in, or if there's somebody behind that development that actually cares about it. And I felt like the Wii Darkseid Chronicles and Dead Space Extraction, I do felt like people actually cared about those and put effort into it.
Yeah, I got that sense too.
Despite the fact that it was on the Wii. Yeah. So what's next on your chronological list?
I'm glad you asked. Next up, we have Resident Evil. Wait, sorry. Resident Evil. Revelations.
Is that the 3DS and
on the 3DS one? Later ported to PC in high definition and possibly consoles, okay. I think, but it was definitely ported to PC.
I think it was on Wii U and maybe the 360 as well.
Probably, but it came out on 3DS first.
Yeah, which I played the demo on 3DS. That's all I've played of this game, just so you know. So the only thing I played is the demo on the 3DS, and I just have to say, like, technically, like, what a marvel. Like, it looks so good.
I mean, when it came out, like, I just remember thinking, like, wow, this is a whole deal, like, on 3DS. Like, I was pretty impressed. Like, it's like having a Resident Evil 4 type game, like, a whole third-person shoot on your 3DS. Don't look at the shadows too closely, but other than that, like, not half bad.
Yeah, I thought it looked great, and I thought the 3D was really good as well, which is another thing that's really hit or miss on the 3DS. Some games, it just slapped it on, but it felt like they actually put effort into it on this one.
Yeah, I don't remember too well what the 3D was like, but that's good.
I did want to play the game, but if there's something that I can play that's on a handheld and on a console system, I usually pick the home console, because the 3DS for me is a pretty like physically uncomfortable system to play. Just because I have a lot of pain issues, and holding the 3DS for like 4 or 5 hours or whatever, or even just like a half an hour, I would say, like it can start to cause some pain. But like Resident Evil is a game that you do kind of sit down and play. You don't play Resident Evil for like 15-20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
It's a game where you sit down and you play it. And I think I heard that it was going to be ported to other systems, so I waited, and then I don't think I just ever found a copy. But the way that it looked was interesting to me. I liked the idea that I think it's on a boat, right? At least it starts on a boat.
Yeah, no, the whole thing is pretty much on a boat. Yeah,
yeah. So I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to check it out, and I just never got around to finding a copy that I could. I just kind of expected to find one cheap someday, and it just never happens.
So going back to the 3DS issues, I'm assuming Kid Icarus Uprising is not one of your favorite 3DS games.
I didn't even bother. I was like, this is painful for normal people.
It's a shame because it's a great game. It's probably my favorite 3DS game, but man, it hurts. But anyway, yeah, no, I played the 3DS version of Revelations when it came out, and I played the PC version as well. Honestly, both times I had the same thought. It's pretty mediocre. Yeah. I didn't care for it. It's just, it's kind of strange, and I feel like I'm a little outspoken because a lot of people really liked Revelations, and I can kind of see why. It's pretty reminiscent of like the classic games. It's definitely slow paced. It's got like all sorts of puzzle solving elements and stuff like that, but I just felt like the enemy types were a little lacking. It's got that like weird dodge mechanic that we talked about last episode, and it's just like doesn't feel good to use. It's really weird and inconsistent and wonky. And it's one of those games where it's just like I couldn't really put my finger on it, but it just feels so bleh.
I do remember when I played it, the demo even, and I just chalked it up to being the demo, but I did feel like the environment itself was like, I like the fact that it was on a boat, but just everything was just kind of gray. Well, it's weird because like
I'm crazy about sea monsters. Like I really love sea monsters. I really love like nautical stuff. So like it should have been right up my alley, but I just found the enemies to be really generic. I found the combat in particular was just really sort of generic. I don't want to go too hard on it because it was a 3DS game, but at the same time, like, I don't know, man. I gotta speak from my heart, and I don't think I'll ever play it again. I already played it twice.
I do think that definitely its place in the release timeline has a big effect on it, because it did come out at a time where I think that they were kind of showing like, look, this is a bit more like the old games. We're bringing back Jill. It's going to be spooky. Mm-hmm. It's going to be in tiny areas compared to, Chris Redfield punching a boulder on a volcano.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, we're going back to our roots a little bit. So I think
honestly,
might.
Well, they did kind of bring back some of the cheese, because one of the things that's really awesome about the game though, each chapter they start with like this soap opera type like recap of like it literally says on screen like previously on Resident Evil Revelations, and then it does this like little piano like boom bring, and then it does like this montage of like all the crazy stuff that happened in the last chapter. And it's awesome.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's so Capcom.
Yeah, I definitely do want to play it someday, but maybe on. I did hear that the Wii U version does have a bit of a like kind of a dead zone when you're aiming, because of the way the like the controller joysticks are designed. They didn't really like optimize the joystick to work with, because I'm struggling to remember if the Wii U has a perfectly circular joystick, or it has like the like little notches, like the 8-way notches.
It doesn't have little notches, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
It's
so it might be that the Wii U, that they ported it as though the Wii U had notches, and it's something to do with the notches.
Shouldn't make too big of a difference.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a minor complaint, and I wouldn't even notice. But
it is on PC. The PC version was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, me and PC games don't mix. They hate me.
Yeah, I've heard. I bet the Wii U version's like $2.
Yeah, maybe in the magical United States of the U.S. United States of America, but not
in the land of Canada.
No, in Canada, everything's expensive forever, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'd say definitely give it a shot. You know, I've heard of people who really liked it, so I could just be the weirdo. But
yep, could be.
And speaking of the odd one out, you want to hear the next game on the list? I'm sure we're going to have a lot to say about this one.
I will have little, but go ahead. I think I know what it is.
Operation Raccoon City.
Okay, I forgot that even existed.
Exactly. I have to look up the Wikipedia page. It's. I think I might have played this for about 10 minutes. It is a third-person shooter survival horror video game for Microsoft Windows. Okay, hold on.
Oh, right. I remember now.
It was some like BS shooter. It was not good. It was so bad. Everyone hates this game.
I feel like, they were definitely cashing in on like the Modern Warfare.
Yeah, it got mixed reviews, probably mixed between bad and really bad. And I think I played it for a few minutes. It was awful.
It didn't look good. It looked as though somebody was making a generic shooter, and then they just decided to slap a few Resident Evil things on there.
Yep. And
hoped that would generate enough income to make up for the development costs. That's honestly how it felt.
Yep. Thanks guys. All right. And that was that.
Yeah, moving on.
So I guess the big 6. Resi 6. Here we go. Mm-hmm. What'd you think?
So I got 6. I was looking forward to it. And I think I played through Leon's section. Well, I guess we should recap what it is, and maybe you can correct my memory because it has been a long time since I played it.
Same.
From what I remember, it has a number of different branching stories. So when you start the game, you're like, I want to play as Ada, and then you just play a completely different scenario.
You might have to unlock Ada.
Okay.
I don't remember.
But regardless, it's like you play as Ada in like basically her own story that has very little to do with
the rest. Each character has their own campaign.
Yeah. And they're all quite different. So I remember playing Leon's because I like Leon, and his was a bit more, zombies and spooks. There's like a graveyard and stuff.
Yeah, especially at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And I liked his section okay. I did feel like a little disappointed in Leon's characterization because he was less quippy and fun.
It's like they tried to do 4 again, but it wasn't quite the same.
And then I feel like Chris's section was just more of like, I feel like at one point there was like a T-Rex monster with like an eyeball in its mouth. There's something like that.
Sounds kind of familiar.
What even is this? Yeah, and there's tanks, and it's just so like military. And then Ada's is very sneaky and spyish, and I kept getting killed.
I didn't play Ada's.
And then I think there's one other...
Jake.
That other guy Jake, who I think, spoilers, is Wesker's son?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and he's the infamous guy. He's the guy from the infamous game.
Yeah, kinda.
He's like a white guy with a buzz cut and powers, and like he's got a bit of a tood, and he's like, he's got a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, he's edgy.
I just want to do my own thing.
It's like,
yeah.
Well, I was gonna say he was the Shadow the Hedgehog of the series, but actually that might be Leon. I don't know.
Yeah. So, and I don't know, are there other stories, or is it just those 4?
As far as I know, that's it. I think that better be it, because just doing those takes forever.
Yeah, so I remember like Leon's being okay. I was like, yeah, this is okay. Mm-hmm. And then the other ones I very quickly lost interest in, and like it's quite forgettable. I don't remember much about it other than I thought the concept of the game, where you have like 4 or more like different, basically shorter games within one package, I thought that was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I just think they didn't really execute it well.
Yeah, I mean, well, my take on it was really weird because like I think I went, I don't remember what order I did, but I know I did Leon's first, and I remember really digging it because you start out in like that creepy, I think you're in like a school or something, or you start, actually I think you start in the graveyard, but either way it's like really dark and creepy, and I was like really loving it. And then like I kind of liked Leon's story most out of all of them, but the impression I got was like Leon's kind of like Resident Evil 4 sort of style, Chris is like 5 sort of style, and Jake's was almost kind of like 3, you reminded me of, because of like the Ustinek was chasing you the entire time.
Right.
And then Ada's I didn't play. But like so I remember liking Leon's story quite a bit, hating Chris's story, and I thought Jake's was okay.
Yeah, it might have been better. I guess I just don't like Jake as a character, because he did just seem like he just seemed like the edgy boy. They're like, let's
I don't really remember much of him. But do you remember the end of Jake's story where you have that like punch out fight with the Ustinek? Or
I think
maybe
so.
that was like
I do think I beat his. I think the only one that I didn't beat, I didn't beat Chris's, because I think I got to some part where I died and they wanted me to go really far back, and I was like, you know what, I don't actually want to do this. And I think Ada's I stopped because it was too sneaky. I just kept getting killed. Because I think hers, you have like maybe a crossbow and you like do a lot of strangling and sneaking around.
That sounds like Ada.
I was just like, I'm not into this right now, and I just didn't pick it up again. Like, I don't have much of it. I might play Leon's part over again. But as far as the rest of the game goes, I don't really have an interest of playing it again.
Yeah, I felt the same way. It's weird because, like, I remember when I played it when it first came out, I was, like, really digging it because, like, most of all, I love that you could manually execute melee attacks, and I thought that was so fun. You could just run up to zombies and you can just hit them. And I thought, for some reason, I thought that was awesome. And I remember thinking it was, like, a pretty great, like, you know, it was a pretty good action game. Like, that was my opinion when I first played it. I tried to go back to it pretty recently. Me and my friend tried to play co-op, and I was like, this is... Like, I didn't really dig it.
Did they have co-op in that game?
Yeah. That was actually one thing I really didn't like about Leon's campaign is, like, you'd be in this, like, dark area, and, like, it'd be, like, creepy and stuff, and, like, you wouldn't see where any monsters are at. But then your AI partner would just be like, there's a monster over there, and start shooting it, and you're just like, oh, okay. It's just like really, really did not do good for the tension.
I don't even remember there being an AI character.
Yeah, like the whole thing with the AI partners in 6, which at least they fixed from 5, was that they were pretty good at just like getting out of your way. Like, you didn't have to like manage their ammo. You could pretty much just like forget about them, which is probably why you don't remember them.
Yeah, I guess they did a good job. Because I honestly don't remember.
You know what? 6 sucks just because it introduced Piers. That was Chris's side character, was Piers Nivens or something. And you know what? I hate that guy. He's such a tool.
I don't remember anything about him, but just based on his name, I also don't like him.
Yeah, well,
that's not Piers.
Because he sucks. Yeah, Piers. It's like a running joke with me and my friends, like that Piers is just such a lame dude. I kind of love making fun of Piers.
I'm honestly so surprised I don't remember there being any AI.
Yeah, no,
that's nuts.
They thought they really were onto something with 5. They brought it over.
I do remember, one thing I do remember very vividly about this game is that the text was so small that I could hardly read it on my TV.
Man, you ever played? Did you play Death Stranding yet?
No.
Jeez, the text on that game. Just to sidetrack for a second here, like, dude, they put like 0.2 or 0.4 like size text in that game, like, and there's a lot of it. Oh, it was horrible. But anyway,
it was kind of a part of that generation that annoyed me, was that, like, well, if you played a game like on the Wii, they assumed that you probably had a CRT
Mm-hmm.
and made the games like make sense that way. But then if you go to play like a 360 game on like a CRT or a smaller TV, they're assuming that everyone who owned a 360 or a PS3 had like these gigantic TVs, so they give you like this super tiny font and just like it's all blurry and you're just like squinting and it's like, what are they saying? But thankfully it wasn't that big of a deal because you can hear what they're saying. But it was, I do remember distinctly that being an annoyance right off the bat. We're just like, why did they even bother putting this text in here?
Well, you were trying to play it on your Game Boy Pocket, right?
Yeah. That was my mistake.
No, I don't remember that, but I mean, I could.
You probably had a big fancy TV.
Man, did I? I think I had a 20-inch.
Probably bigger than mine. My nephew came over earlier in the year, and the first thing he said when he came over was like, "Your TV's so small." Because like I don't know how big it is, but it's like it's some people have computer monitors like the size of my TV. I'm not one of these people that needs like a gigantic wall-filling television. I basically bought my TV to fit within a TV unit.
I mean, some people have some pretty big old monitors.
Yeah. But it's neither here nor there. I honestly don't have much to say about 6. Like 4 was the last Resident Evil that I think 5 was the last Resident Evil that I actually like really cared about. And even then, I didn't care so much about the game so much as just spending time with my friend.
Yeah.
And, like 6 was a disappointment, and
they just you could see why people started to get a little like upset with the series, and I mean, they never managed to recapture the love they had for 4 until they came out with 7. Wait, no, wait, no. Until they came out with Umbrella Corps.
Umbrella Corps?
Yeah, this is another Operation Raccoon City type game. I don't remember if I played this or in that they're both really bad games that no one likes. I don't think they really have anything to do with each other gameplay wise. Yeah, it's bad.
I'm looking at this game right now and I'm like, this exists?
Yeah, it's bad. Nobody liked it. No. Nobody liked it. Everyone hated it. Moving on. I don't think I even
was it it was like a multiplayer game? Or
it's a multiplayer based tactical shooter. I mean, those
are all things I love.
Yeah, the fun we would have with our multiplayer based tactical shooting Resident Evil games. It was on PlayStation 4.
Like the contrast, like just looking at this game and then like thinking back to where the series started, just like shaking your head and being like, what are you doing? Yeah,
well, I mean, to be fair, they were always trying some stuff. They did have what was it, Resident Evil Dead Aim. We didn't really talk about this because I haven't even played it, and I don't know if you have either. I think this was another on rails shooter they did on the PS2. It looks like.
There was 2 of them, wasn't there?
Probably. Dead Aim.
Yeah. Is there one called Outbreak?
Resident Evil Survivor. Yeah, there's Survivor is also a Lycan game on the PlayStation 1.
Yeah.
So I've never played any of those, but
I'd like to, but yeah, never got around.
I'm sure they're way better than Umbrella Corps.
I do wonder if there was someone when they were making the Wii games, they're just like, oh, what can we put on the Wii? Like, what can the Wii handle? What can we just dump some assets onto and do? And they're like, well, we made those light gun games like in the 90s. Maybe we could just do that again.
Hey, man, whenever you're playing Umbrella Chronicles, like thinking that like, it was just whatever, like go pop in Umbrella Corps and just think about like how much worse it can be. Oh, awful.
Yeah, I guess I'm seeing your perspective now whenever I was saying that, and you're like, well, just wait till we talk about the later games.
Yeah, because I'm the one with the release list. I can see what's coming.
Yeah. But yeah, I honestly, I didn't even know this one existed.
Yeah, well, you were better off, but now you know. And now you'll never forget. So, you probably will. Resident Evil 7. Did you ever play 7?
No, it looks really interesting.
I am outspoken.
What it reminded me of whenever I saw like the release trailer or something, it reminded me of what's it called? That game.
Oh, you're thinking of PT.
Yeah, it reminded me of PT. That Silent Hill-esque first person.
I think that was very much on purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And I've heard otherwise. Here's because you know the whole deal with PT, right? Everybody knows this.
Well, why don't you refresh the audience?
All right. Oh, this is going to get me depressed. I'm going to preface this. This is probably the biggest disappointment ever in video game history. Second only to Blue Stinger sequel not coming out.
Yeah, definitely. Those are on par. Yeah.
So, well, to be fair, that actually does involve someone dying. So that's probably that's really sad. This just involves someone losing a job. But anyway,
okay, we'll go on.
As far as gaming goes, this is probably the biggest disappointment. So, PT comes out. It's short for playable trailer. Comes out on I think just PlayStation 4. But so it comes out. Nobody knows what it is. Hopefully, I'm getting all this right. Nobody knows what it is. It's just like this weird first-person game. It's like a horror game. It's really short, kind of like a little, almost like an indie game. You walk around this hallway and stuff, and spooky things happen. I believe it was on stream. Like, it was on Twitch, and the game had been out for a while. Someone accidentally beat it. I hope this is right, because this would be awesome if this
doesn't
is right.
matter. No one's judging you, man.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I just hope this is right because this is an awesome story, and I'd hate for it to be wrong. Someone accidentally beat it, and so when you beat it, you get this cutscene at the end where you see, what's his name? Walking Dead guy. The dude from Walking Dead. I hate that I'm stuck on this. Anyway, so the dude from Walking Dead comes out, and this actor that everyone loves because he's like the favorite character on Walking Dead, so everyone knows who he is. So like, you see him walking out, you're like, what is going on here? And then you hear the music, you see the title, Silent Hills, and it's directed by Hideo Kojima, and everyone freaks out because they've been outsourcing Silent Hill forever. Silent Hill has like been just total garbage, and now we finally get a good Silent Hill game with a great director that like is so weird. He would be perfect for Silent Hill, and Konami just cancels the whole thing. Everyone knows the story. It's just total disappointment.
Yeah, and Kojima he's the creator of Metal Gear Solid, right?
Yeah, Metal Gear Solid. He did Snatcher, Police Knots. Yeah, total.
So
total.
He's got some serious pedigree.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like everyone think. I also heard like it was also, well, I didn't hear it. Like it was confirmed like Guillermo del Toro was involved, which I'm not a big fan of his movies, but a lot of people love him. I even heard Junji Ito was going to be helping with like enemy design. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, but do you know who that is?
No,
the horror manga artist. Oh, dude, you should check out some of his work sometime. It's gnarly, but it just keeps getting worse. Anyway, PT was so popular. I really feel like, and this is not digging on the game or anything like that. Like, I really think that they wanted to capture some of that with 7. And people talk about like it was in development like way before PT came. Like, yeah, maybe, or maybe they were working on it and they just kind of like, why don't we just fit this right in here? And I really think they were trying to like give people something out of that,
I mean, that's the impression that I got from it. I mean, I wasn't too tuned in. I honestly I'd say probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago or so, I just stopped paying attention to game news altogether.
Yeah.
I kind of lost interest in basically all the new things that were coming out. And so, some of the newer pieces of news, like the whole PT thing, or Resident Evil 7 thing, I'm just kind of viewing from an outsider perspective, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I looked at it and I was like, yeah, this just looks like they took the idea of PT, like they saw that people were like, yeah, they really liked PT. They wanted some real horror, so then they decided to make their next game in the franchise kind of more like that. Or it could have just been, a mix of that and them just wanting to take it back to horror altogether.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how well all these other things did. Like, I feel like 5 sold pretty well, but I don't know how well, like, 6 and those shooting games, like, really did.
I don't think the shooting games
been...
did well at all.
Yeah,
but,
so they might have been like, well, we tried a bunch of random things, let's just go back to our roots, but...
I'm sure 5 and 6 did pretty good, but...
I think 5 did, for sure. I don't know about 6.
Yeah,
6 might have just based on the name, and... I don't know if
it might have taken a hit, but...
I think it sold well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 7 also wanted to do the VR. And I mean, if any horror game is going to be like the VR horror game, like it's going to be Resident Evil. I mean, come on. They gotta.
Yeah, why don't you describe... Because honestly, like, that's kind of where my knowledge of the game ends, where there's a lot of, like, they try to make it horror elements and first person, and that's honestly, that's all I know from 7.
Yeah, I mean, they try to make it... They tried to make it a lot spookier, the first person thing. I didn't play it in VR. I've never played VR before. I'm too cheap to buy a headset still. But, I mean, I really see what they were going for. Like, they wanted to do a really immersive horror game. They wanted a big departure after 6. And you know what? I mean, no one can blame them for that because no one likes 6. Or at least a lot of people didn't. But, for me personally, it's weird because, like, I don't hate 7. I really see what it's going for, and I'm super glad a lot of people like it. It didn't quite grab me that hard. And there's a lot of reasons why. I don't know, like, should I just go into the spiel?
Yeah, go for it. I'm interested. I don't even know what the gameplay is like in this game.
So it's pretty similar to it's slow. It's not like 4. It's more akin to like the older games in terms of its pacing. It's got a great setting to be honest. First of all, I got to say, like, the like this swampy sort of like bayou, kind of like Louisiana sort of like area. Like, it was a great setting for it. Mm-hmm. But it's it's obviously in first person. I really felt like I didn't like that it was a first person because they go for a lot of like poppy sort of gotcha sort of like scares, and I just really didn't like that.
Yeah,
I felt like it just didn't really need to be there. You can't start the game on hard, I don't think, which, I mean, really sucks because I honestly felt like they needed... I didn't fire my Magnum once the entire game. Oh. I didn't need to. The enemies in it are really lame. They're just like these goopy, like tarry black sort of like humanoid monsters. They're not very scary. They're really lame. There's not a lot of strategy in the game. Like, you kind of just kill everything, so it kind of is like 4 in that way, but it's not fast paced and actiony. Like, you just find an enemy here and there. They have like a stalking section where, like, they actually have like quite a few like sections where like there's characters stalking you, but I felt it a little more annoying than what they ended up doing with Mr. X in the 2 remake, because they just, like, the characters that were stalking you just weren't as impactful and as cool as Mr. X, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had really mixed feelings on 7. Like, my overall impression was, like, I saw what they were doing. I thought they did a pretty good job for what they were going for. I did not want this to be the future of the series.
Okay. Yeah. Would do you think it's worth playing? Like, if I wanted to play this game, like, what other, like, Resident Evil game is it close to, I suppose, like, in tone and the like?
In tone?
Yeah.
That's that's another interesting point. It's hard to even really put a finger on it. It takes itself a lot more seriously, which is something I didn't really care for. One interesting thing I was thinking of, I always get laughed at for this. So 7 is kind of the moment where they start dropping the F-bomb a lot more. And, I'm definitely no prude. I use foul language in my day-to-day very frequently. But I was talking to some people. I don't have a problem with bad language in games, right? But there is the subject of like tone. And when you start like throwing F-bombs here and there and whatnot, like it sets a certain mood. Like you're like it feels like you're trying to take it really seriously, and like whereas before like it felt more lighthearted and cheesy. I'm not saying like it's just that, but I'm saying like it does add to it, and I feel like it is telling of like the type of mood they were going for in this game. And I just felt like it could like it's not all super serious. I think there is some sort of like campiness in there, just a touch, but not quite what I like in my Resident Evil games. But I mean, at the same time, like what is there is it's kind of like its own thing. It's pretty interesting. It's really complicated. I've only played it once. I'd probably have to play it again if I really wanted to get like a really nuanced opinion of it. But this is kind of like my first impressions sort of deal,
Yeah. Well, you're definitely be intriguing me with your vagueness.
Yeah, it's hard.
You're making me want to play it.
Yeah, it's hard. You should play it. Like definitely, if only just because so many people love it. Like you might end up loving it yourself. And I didn't hate it, but it's just. It's a real different sort of thing. It's kind of hard to describe, honestly. Like I'm kind of surprised at how hard it is to really explain to someone who hasn't played it like what it's like. Just because it's so different from the rest of the series.
Yeah, well, to me that makes it worth playing regardless of its Resident Evil connection.
Yeah, you should.
But I guess like could they have called it something else? And it would have been the same game. Like, is it really like Resident Evil-esque if it would have just been called Zombie Bayou?
Like, do you think it feels Resident Evil? Or is that what you're asking? Like, does it feel like it has that Resident Evil like soul in it?
Yeah, because even the Resident Evil games, a lot of them that are like departures, still. Like they'll throw in at least the similar characters or mention Umbrella or some sort of virus or they all have some sort of similar aspects to them, minus the real departures like those shooting ones you mentioned.
Yeah. Well, in terms of like referencing older games, very sparse. Mm-hmm. Very, very sparse. I think it does have like herbs in it. But other than that, like, man, I'm struggling to really. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, if you were to ask me the question, does it have like the soul of a Resident Evil game? I feel like this could change very easily if I play it again and maybe get a different perspective. But like, I think I'm gonna have to say like no. It's just kind of like a gut thing.
Yeah.
But
well, if I ever end up playing it, which I feel like I probably won't.
Well,
I want to.
I would recommend it. I recommend it.
Yeah. But if I do ever play it, I will let you know what I think.
Please do.
Was that the latest game? When did that come out?
That was 2017, and except for the remakes, that is the latest game.
Well, it seems like we're at the end, which means we have to rank all the games.
Right.
Well, not all of them. Well, just like what are some of your top ones? Like if I had to rank my favorite games, from like best to least favorite. Like the top like few I can probably do off the top of my head without thinking. Like Resident Evil 4 is definitely up there. The Resident Evil 1 remake is probably second. Then maybe Code Veronica as a third. And then the rest I care significantly less about. But those are definitely, I would say those are definitely my top three. And the rest are just kind of, They can change orders. They're not
right.
They're not ones that I'm like ever like, oh man, that was a great game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, top three. If I could put them in no order, it'd be 1 remake, 4, and 2 remake. In no particular order. If I had to order them, if you really put a broken butterfly to my head, 1 is such a masterpiece of a video game. I mean, there's just no like overstating the impact and how tight and like well made it is. I think it has to be the best. I mean, it's one of my favorite games of all time. Followed by 4, followed by 2 remake.
I'm surprised the 2 remake is so high on there.
It's good,
honestly.
Honestly, yeah. I really have to play the 2 original again to see like I want to see if I love that more. But I'm not gonna lie, dude. When 2 remake came out, like I played it like over and over again. It's so good. Really fun.
That's. I mean, now that I'm thinking back, you did sing its praises, but still, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was expecting your top 3 to be the same as mine.
well, going back to
Veronica would be in there.
Yeah, you know, I really loved Veronica, but in terms of just like factoring in like how much I love them, but like just there's something about Veronica that like it was so fun. Like it was fun. And you know, I do have to replay them, and maybe this will change. But like, it just in terms of like the gut impact, like when I look at all the games in order, like it might just be because 2 is the newest one, honestly. But going back to what I said about 7, I like not wanting it to be the future of the series, which by the way, it looks like it might be because 8 is going to be similar. I think. I think. Never mind. I don't remember anymore. I think 2 remake. And to an extent 3 remake, like I would love to see that be the future. Like do that, but don't remake the games anymore. Like make new ones in that style, and I'd love it.
Yeah, and I would be okay with that. From what I've seen of 3 remake, I would totally be okay with that.
Yeah,
it definitely seems. It does feel more like the natural.
Yeah, I think that's why 2 is so like is in my top 3, just because. It really, dude, it's so rough. If you're a fan of survival horror these days, man, what is there? Like, everything is just, like, kind of Amnesia clones, it feels like. And, I mean...
Yeah, things go through phases. It's just like, you know, once Resident Evil 4 came out, everything was like a cover-based shooter.
Yeah. And,
for a while.
And, like, Silent Hill isn't around anymore. So, I mean... Unless you like to gamble. So I mean, like, 2 remake really felt like I couldn't believe I was playing that game. Honestly, like it was like so impactful to me. I was like, man, like, because survival horror is one of my favorite genres, if not my favorite genre, and that game really left an impression.
Well. Regardless of several missteps, I think the Resident Evil series is still... It's still, I think... I think even if you take out the fact that, you know, we love them, I think that it's a really important chunk of the video game landscape.
100%.
Video game history. It's very impactful. Like the first one was so impactful for the entire survival horror genre, and then 4, I feel like, was impactful for a number of years for the entire industry.
Yeah,
and Yeah, so I think it's and if anyone's listening to this for some reason is listening to this and hasn't played any Resident Evil games, I think that definitely probably the remakes that you mentioned, as well as the first remake and Resident Evil 4 are pretty approachable. I mean, controls you'll have to get used to, but I think that they're all definitely worth checking out.
Honestly, the first remake on PC, you don't have to use tank controls, so pretty accessible.
Yeah, so I definitely check those out.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you have any other final words about the Resident Evil series.
No, I'd say like I would just agree with you. If you're gonna play any game in the series, like the first one, if anything, just to experience such a monumental game in gaming history. And I mean, I'd extend that to 4, but for sure, Resident Evil 1, play it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Well, yeah. And then we're just gonna have to do a whole episode on the amazing movie franchise that.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
Oh man, that's another. I don't even know if I could talk about it for that long. I just feel like it's worth mentioning that they exist and they are.
Well,
special.
I haven't seen the live action ones, honestly. I've only seen the animated ones.
Oh,
I have all the live action ones in a big steelbook collection I found at Best Buy. You can find the weirdest stuff at Best Buy, but I haven't watched them yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, now we're talking about it, so I guess just really briefly, I'll just say like the movies they're special. They're definitely they're definitely hokey and have varying levels of interest. I do remember liking one of them, but yeah, they're laughably bad at times.
Well, that's good considering there's like a million.
Yeah, well, they definitely make their money back, but some of them are laughably bad, like in terms of like the action sequences and stuff. Like they're well produced.
Yeah.
Like they don't look bad, but like just the stuff that they're making the characters do and the plot points, you're just like, oh man. But the animated ones, I remember liking one of them with Leon.
Oh, I love all of them. Well, they all have Leon, I think.
Oh, do they? Okay. Well, I only remember watching one of them like when it was on Netflix at some point. And,
yeah, they're good.
I enjoyed it.
Oh, they're lovely. Vendetta. Watch Vendetta.
Yeah, it might have been that one.
Did it have Rebecca?
This was so long ago. It's hard for me to remember.
Oh well. Anyway, we had a beautiful ending, and now we're just talking about the movies.
Yeah, and I'm just like, do I cut this part off or to just keep it in? I mean, well, this whole episode we talked for like an hour about like, Resident Evil 4 is a masterpiece, and then we're just like, let's talk about these other.
I think that's perfectly appropriate.
So the last couple of minutes is a nice recap of the whole talk. But yeah, no, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you making the time to chat with me for hours about Resident Evil.
Oh, and, dude, anytime.
Yeah, it's been good times. And also, the people listening don't know this, but you have been helping a lot in the background as well for editing software and recording and that kind of stuff. So they have you to thank for the significantly higher quality than some of the older ones.
Man, I just wanted to see it happen, so I'm willing to put in whatever I can to make it happen.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It is appreciated.
Yeah, no problem.
So with that, I'll just say, this has been Silver Mongoose Videos. And remember, classic gaming never gets old. Oh, God. Well, you know, I have to cut all this stuff out, right?
Well,
this is a children's channel.
A children's channel.